People think burnout feels dramatic. It doesn't. It feels normal, dangerously normal. Answering emails at 11:47 p.m. because nobody else noticed a client escalation. Fixing payroll reporting errors quietly before finance discovered them. Logging into systems during vacations because it's faster if I just do it. By the time I realized I was secretly running half my department, I'd been doing it for almost 8 months. And somehow, nobody knew. Or maybe worse, nobody wanted to know. I worked operations for a mid-sized logistics software company outside Denver. Not glamorous, not exciting, but stable. The kind of place people stayed for years. The kind of place where leadership talked constantly about culture, while the same 5 exhausted people quietly carried everything.
If you love Reddit revenge stories, subscribe. I post one every single day.
My boss, Greg Mercer, had been director of operations for 6 years. Confident, charismatic, excellent in meetings, terrible at almost everything else. He forgot deadlines, ignored escalation emails, approved things without reading them, then somehow walked into executive meetings sounding like the smartest person in the room. The first time I covered for him, I told myself it was temporary. A shipment integration issue, one of our largest clients. Greg forgot to submit approvals. I caught it 37 minutes before rollout. Fixed it. Nobody noticed, including Greg. "Good thing we stayed ahead of that one," he said later during our team meeting. We. Interesting word. I remember sitting there staring at him, waiting for credit, acknowledgement, anything. Nothing. People nodded, meeting moved on, and somehow, that became the pattern. Months passed. I built reports Greg claimed ownership of, handled vendor problems he never knew existed, prevented client losses, corrected budget forecasting errors. Quietly, constantly. Invisible work. The dangerous kind. Because invisible work becomes expected, then forgotten, then exploited. People started saying things, small things. "We should ask Greg. Greg probably knows. Greg built that process." No, Greg didn't. I did. But correcting people felt awkward, petty, temporary, until temporary became normal. 8 months later, I was sitting in my car outside the office parking garage, 7:13 a.m., coffee getting cold, reading an email that changed everything. From Executive Leadership Team. Subject, Operations Excellence Recognition Award. Congratulations, Greg, for your extraordinary leadership, for operational innovation, for measurable efficiency improvements, for building systems that transformed company performance. My systems, my work, my 8 months, given to Greg, publicly, company-wide. I read it 3 times, then once more, hands completely still. Funny. People think betrayal feels explosive. Sometimes, it arrives quietly, in your car, holding cold coffee, realizing someone else built a career standing on your shoulders. And for the first time in 8 months, I stopped fixing things. The first problem appeared 43 minutes later. Not dramatic, not catastrophic, small. The dangerous kind. An automated client billing workflow failed. Normally, I would have fixed it before anyone noticed. 3 clicks, 7 minutes, done. Instead, I sat at my desk, opened the alert, read it, closed it. My chest felt strange, wrong. Not guilt, withdrawal. Like breaking a habit you didn't realize owned you. 9:14 a.m. Slack notification. Greg. Team looking into billing issue? Interesting. Team. Not me. Not the person who'd quietly managed these failures for months. Just team. I typed, deleted, typed again, finally sent. Not sure, haven't checked. Technically true. 10 minutes later, another message. Greg. Can you take a quick look? There it was, the pattern. Small enough to seem harmless, constant enough to become invisible. I stared at the screen, then typed something I hadn't typed in almost a year. Currently focused on assigned priorities. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again, finally. Okay. Okay. Weird word. Because nothing felt okay. 11:32 a.m. Finance called. Billing problem spreading. 3 affected clients. 1 escalation. Still fixable. Very fixable. Greg called an emergency meeting. Conference room B. Glass walls. Bad coffee. Corporate panic. Greg stood near the monitor. Confident. Calm. Performing leadership. We're working through root causes. We. Interesting. Again. I need everyone focused. Everyone. Also interesting. Greg clicked through dashboards, spoke confidently. Wrongly. Painfully wrongly. My stomach twisted. Because I knew exactly what broke. Exactly how to fix it. Exactly where to look. 7 minutes. Still 7 minutes. But nobody asked. Not directly. Greg kept talking, talking, talking. Then, any thoughts? He asked, looking at me. The room shifted slightly. People waiting, expecting. Habit. Dangerous habit. I looked at the dashboard, then Greg, then back. Not yet. Silence. Tiny, sharp. Greg adjusted immediately. No problem. No problem, except by 2:47 p.m., 5 clients were affected. 1 threatened penalties. Finance involved. Legal copied. Executive team asking questions. Suddenly, the 7-minute fix wasn't 7 minutes anymore. Funny, problems grow, especially when people ignore the person quietly holding them together. 4:03 p.m. Greg stopped by my desk. First time all day. Quick question. Of course. Yeah? You've seen this before, right? There it was. Not acknowledgement, not ownership, access. He wanted access. To knowledge, to systems, to invisible work he'd never learned because someone else always handled it. Me. Maybe, I said. Can you walk me through it? Walk me through it. Interesting phrase, because suddenly, for the first time, I realized something. Greg wasn't lazy. Greg was dependent. And dependency, hidden long enough, becomes dangerous for everyone, especially the person carrying it. Greg pulled a chair beside my desk, something he almost never did. Too busy, too important, too executive. At least, that was the image. You think it's the billing API? He asked. Interesting. Because no, not even close. But confident people say wrong things confidently, and people mistake confidence for competence. I don't know, I said. Lie. Small one. Necessary one. Greg leaned back, frustrated. Legal's asking questions. No surprise. Finance is getting pressure from leadership. Also no surprise. What do you think? What do I think? Funny. 8 months, hundreds of fixes, dozens of crises. Suddenly, my opinion mattered. Now, when things hurt. I'd need time to review. How long? 7 minutes. 7 minutes. 7 minutes. Not sure. Greg stared, long enough to notice. Too long. You okay? He asked. Interesting. Because no, not even a little. Fine. Lie. Better one. He stood slowly. Let me know. Then walked away. For the first time, not confident, not polished, worried. Good. 5:18 p.m. Office quieter now. People leaving, lights dimmer, pressure heavier. Slack exploded. Client escalation, penalty threat, executive visibility. Bad. Very bad. Then, a calendar invite. From Greg Mercer. Subject, Executive Incident Review, 6 p.m. Required. Of course, Conference Room A. Leadership already there. Finance, legal, Greg, and Claire Donovan, Chief Operations Officer. Claire scared people. Not loud, not mean. Worse. Prepared. She noticed details. Greg stood near the screen, presenting. Confident voice. Corporate voice. Unexpected systems conflict. No. Cross-platform processing issue. No. Team actively resolving. No, no, no. Claire folded her arms. Quiet. Dangerous quiet. When was the first alert? She asked. Greg clicked slides. Approximately late morning. No. My stomach dropped. No. Not late morning. 8:02 a.m. I knew. Because I saw it. Because I always saw it. Greg kept talking. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Then Claire asked the question. The dangerous question. Who normally handles this workflow? Silence. Tiny silence. Sharp silence. Greg adjusted immediately. My team. Interesting. Team. Again. Claire looked down, reading something, then back up. Specifically. Silence. Longer now. Dangerous. My pulse climbed. Fast. Wrong. Greg smiled. Corporate smile. Controlled smile. Collaborative effort. Claire stayed quiet. Very quiet. Then, we pulled system logs. Cold moved through my chest instantly. No. No way. Claire looked directly at Greg. One person handled 92% of operational corrections tied to this system over 8 months. Silence. Real silence. Legal stopped typing. Finance looked up. Greg stopped moving. My heartbeat felt loud suddenly. Too loud. Claire looked down once, then back. Who's Jordan? Jordan. Me. And suddenly, for the first time in 8 months, the invisible work wasn't invisible anymore. The room went completely quiet. Not normal quiet. Corporate quiet. Dangerous quiet. Greg smiled. Small, controlled. Oh, Jordan supports a lot of operational workflows. Supports. Interesting word. Claire didn't respond immediately. Worse. She clicked something on her laptop. More data, more logs, more truth. Jordan handled 92% of corrections, Claire said calmly. Jordan resolved 17 client escalations. Click. Jordan rebuilt reporting automation in March. Click. Jordan corrected forecasting discrepancies in June. Every click felt heavier. Finance stopped pretending not to listen. Legal stopped typing entirely. Greg shifted slightly. First crack. Small, but enough. Claire looked directly at him. When were you planning to tell leadership? Silence. Sharp silence. Greg adjusted immediately. Corporate recovery mode. Jordan's contributions have absolutely been valuable. Contributions, not leadership, not ownership. Contributions. Interesting. Claire folded her arms. Dangerous. Greg. Quiet voice. Worst kind. Did Jordan build these systems? My pulse climbed. Fast. Wrong. Greg hesitated. 1 second. 2. 3. Too long. Team effort. No. 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 Claire slowly turned toward me. First time all meeting. Jordan. My stomach dropped. Yes? Did you build them? The room felt smaller, harder to breathe. 8 months, hundreds of hours, nights, weekends, vacation logins, missed birthdays, missed dinners, missed life. For what? Corporate silence waited. Heavy. Dangerous. I looked at Greg. Really looked. For the first time, he looked scared. Not worried. Scared. Good. Jordan? Claire asked again. And suddenly, I realized something. Greg thought I'd protect him, like always. Fix it quietly. Carry it quietly. Disappear quietly. Habit. Dangerous habit. No, I said carefully. Silence. Real silence. It wasn't a team effort. Greg stopped moving. Completely. I built the systems. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. I handled corrections. Silence. I managed escalations. Silence. I rebuilt reporting. Silence. I trained operations. Silence. I fixed billing failures. My voice sounded strange, steady, clear, like someone finally saying something they'd carried too long. Greg laughed softly. Small, corporate, dangerous. Jordan's being modest about how collaborative. No! My voice sharper now, stronger. No. Claire looked between us, watching, calculating, understanding. Good. Very good. Because suddenly, the room wasn't looking at Greg anymore. They were looking through him. Then Claire asked one question. One small question. One devastating question. Greg. Quiet. Professional. Final. If Jordan stopped helping tomorrow. Silence. Long. Heavy. Dangerous. What happens? And for the first time, Greg didn't have an answer. Greg opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Nothing. Interesting, because Greg always had answers. Corporate answers, meeting answers, leadership answers. Claire waited. Patient. Dangerous. What happens? She repeated. The room felt smaller. Finance watching. Legal watching. Me watching. Greg adjusted his tie. Small movement. Nervous movement. We have strong operational processes, he said finally. Claire nodded once. Okay. Too easy. Dangerous. Walk me through the billing recovery process. Silence. Tiny. Sharp. Greg clicked his laptop. Wrong screen. Clicked again. Wrong again. My stomach twisted. Not satisfaction. Not yet. Recognition. Because suddenly, everyone was seeing what I'd been carrying. We escalate internally, Greg said carefully. Claire said nothing. Worse. Then we coordinate system resolution. No. Wrong. Painfully wrong. Finance shifted beside me. Legal stopped looking at their laptops entirely. Greg kept talking. Words. Corporate words. Safe words. Meaningless words. Claire finally interrupted. Who gets escalated to? Silence. Longer now. Dangerous. Greg smiled. Corporate recovery smile. Depends on circumstances. Claire nodded slowly. Show me. Show me. 2 words. Sharp enough to cut glass. Greg clicked around. More screens. Wrong screens. Wrong dashboards. My pulse changed. Because suddenly, I realized something. Greg didn't just depend on me. Greg didn't understand the systems. At all. 8 months. 8 months of invisible protection. 8 months of quietly preventing exposure. Gone. Claire looked toward me. Jordan? My stomach dropped instantly. Yes? Can you explain the recovery process? Greg moved immediately. Jordan supports pieces of... No, Claire said calmly. Quiet. Professional. Final. Jordan? Everyone waiting. Watching. Habit. Dangerous habit. 7 minutes. Still 7 minutes. Still fixable. Still mine. But suddenly, something inside me changed. Small. Permanent. No, I said quietly. Silence exploded. What? Greg asked. I won't. My voice sounded calmer now, stronger. Claire studied me carefully. Why? Good question. Big question. 8 months. Late nights. Vacations. Missed life. Recognition awards sent to someone else. Because, I said carefully, I think leadership should understand current operational dependencies before I explain them. Silence. Dangerous silence. Greg stared at me. Not scared now. Angry. Real anger. Interesting. Claire folded her arms slowly. Very slowly. Operational dependencies. Quiet. Dangerous. Explain that. My pulse climbed. Fast. Sharp. Wrong. Because suddenly, for the first time, I wasn't protecting Greg anymore. And things were about to get very expensive. Nobody spoke. Not immediately, because corporate silence has layers. Confusion, politics, fear. Claire leaned back slowly, watching me. Not Greg. Me. Jordan, she said carefully. What operational dependencies? My heartbeat felt loud, too loud. Greg shifted beside the screen. First nervous movement I'd ever seen from him. Interesting. Very interesting. 8 months. 8 months of invisible work. Now suddenly, everyone wanted visibility. I manage billing correction workflows, I said. Claire nodded once. Okay. I handle vendor escalations. Nod. Client operational recovery. Nod. Forecast correction. Nod. Reporting automation. Nod. Incident prevention alerts? Silence. Real silence. Greg stepped in fast, too fast. Jordan's incredibly valuable. Valuable. Interesting. Not leadership, not ownership. Valuable. Like software. Like equipment. Like infrastructure. Not people. Claire looked toward Greg. When exactly were you planning to tell executive leadership one employee handled this much operational risk? Greg adjusted immediately. Cross-training has been a future priority. No. No, no, no. Future priority. Corporate language for... We ignored it. Claire clicked something. System dashboard. More logs. More truth. My stomach tightened instantly. No. Not those. Not the after-hours logs. 8:43 p.m. Saturday fixes. Vacation logins. Holiday corrections. Claire stared quietly. Dangerous quiet. Jordan? My pulse climbed. Yes? Were you asked to work these hours? Silence. Big silence. Greg moved instantly. We foster a collaborative culture. No. Claire didn't even look at him. Worse. Much worse. She looked directly at me. Jordan. Truth. Dangerous thing. No, I said quietly. Silence. Real silence. I just fix things. Claire studied the screen. Long enough. Careful enough. Then, how long? 8 months. Finance looked stunned. Legal looked uncomfortable. Greg looked trapped. Good. Very good. 8 months, Claire repeated quietly. Dangerous. Very dangerous. Why? Good question. Hard question. Because at first, I cared. Then, people expected it. Then, people depended on it. Then, I couldn't stop. Because invisible work becomes responsibility. Then identity. Then prison. Greg finally stepped forward. Corporate voice back. Controlled. Jordan's an exceptional employee. Employee. Interesting. Not leader. Not builder. Employee. I've always appreciated... No. Claire said it quietly. Worse. Greg. Silence. Go home. The room changed instantly. Sharp. Wrong. What? Greg asked. Go home. No corporate voice now. Executive voice. Dangerous voice. I'll follow up tomorrow. Greg stared. Actually stared. No. Interesting. Very interesting. Because suddenly, for the first time, Greg wasn't managing the room. And suddenly, I realized something terrifying. I hadn't been ghost managing one department. I'd been quietly holding together an entire operation. And leadership had just discovered it. Greg didn't move. Not immediately. Which somehow made everything worse. The conference room felt smaller now, finance pretending not to stare, legal suddenly very interested in their laptops again. Claire stood slowly, calm, controlled, dangerous. Greg, she said quietly, go home. I think we're overreacting. Interesting. Very interesting. Because Greg still thought this was recoverable, a misunderstanding, a conversation, a leadership moment. No, this wasn't leadership anymore. This was exposure. Claire folded her arms. Jordan? My stomach tightened instantly. Yes? How many systems break if you disappear tomorrow? Disappear. Interesting word. Not resign. Disappear. Like leadership already understood risk. I don't know, I said honestly. Claire didn't blink. Estimate. Estimate. Okay. Billing workflows, vendor recovery, reporting automation, escalations, forecast systems, alert monitoring, client operational recovery. My chest felt heavier suddenly, because hearing it out loud made it real. Most of them, I said quietly. Silence. Real silence. Greg laughed. Short, corporate, defensive. That's dramatic. No. No. Claire turned slowly. Dangerous slowly. Greg. Quiet, professional, sharp enough to cut steel. Can you operate billing recovery without Jordan? Silence. Vendor escalation? Silence. Forecast correction? Silence. Client operational recovery? Silence. Every unanswered question felt louder, heavier, more expensive. Greg adjusted his jacket. Small nervous movement. Interesting. Processes exist. Claire nodded. Show me. Again, those two words. Show me. Dangerous. Greg opened his laptop. Clicked again. Wrong dashboard. Wrong system. Wrong file. My pulse climbed. Not satisfaction. Not revenge. Recognition. Because suddenly, leadership wasn't hearing me. They were seeing him. Finally. Claire closed her laptop. Slowly. Controlled. Decision made. What percentage of Jordan's responsibilities are documented? Silence. Greg knew. I knew. Nobody else knew. Until now. Greg? Claire asked. Working documentation exists. Corporate answer. Meaningless answer. Claire looked at me. Jordan? Yes? How much documentation exists? My throat felt tight. Wrong. Maybe 20%? Finance actually swore quietly. Legal stopped typing. Greg looked toward me. Sharp. Cold. Interesting. Because suddenly, he wasn't embarrassed. He was angry. At me. For stopping. For speaking. For no longer carrying him. Claire picked up her notebook. Decision face. Executive face. Dangerous face. Jordan. Yes? Tomorrow morning. Pause. Heavy pause. I want a complete operational dependency audit. My pulse climbed instantly. Fast. Wrong. Because suddenly, for the first time, leadership wasn't asking what Greg managed. Leadership was asking what happened. If I left, I didn't sleep. Not really. People think validation feels good. Sometimes, it feels terrifying. Because once people finally see everything you've been carrying, they also see how long you allowed it. 2:13 a.m., still awake, laptop open, dependency audit template sitting empty on my screen. Claire wanted documentation, processes, ownership, risk exposure. Simple. Except, it wasn't simple. Because every system led back to me, every fix, every workaround, every invisible thing. I started writing. Billing recovery workflow, vendor escalation path, forecast correction process, client incident management, automation maintenance. After 43 minutes, I stopped, hands completely still. Because suddenly, I realized something worse. There were systems nobody knew existed. Not company systems, my systems. Backup alerts I'd built quietly, emergency tracking sheets, redundancy safeguards, protective layers, invisible protection. The kind nobody notices until it's gone. 7:02 a.m. Office parking garage. Cold coffee. Again. Funny. Some habits survive everything. Slack exploded before I even reached my desk. Greg wasn't online. Strange. Very strange. 9:11 a.m. Calendar notification. From Claire Donovan. Subject, Dependency Audit Review. 10 a.m. Executive floor. Interesting. Very interesting. I'd been inside executive conference rooms exactly twice, both by accident. 10:03 a.m. Claire, Finance Director, Legal, HR, and someone else. David Lawson, CEO. No. No, no, no. My pulse climbed instantly. Fast. Wrong. David looked tired, sharp, focused. The dangerous combination. Jordan, he said. Morning. Morning. Claire slid paperwork toward him. My audit. My systems. My invisible work. Visible now. David flipped pages slowly. Billing, forecasting, escalations, vendor recovery, alert infrastructure. Every page felt heavier, more expensive. Then, he stopped. One page. My emergency incident protection system. The thing nobody knew existed. Not Greg, not leadership. Nobody. David looked up slowly. What is this? Cold moved through my chest instantly. No, not that. Jordan? Claire asked quietly. My throat tightened. Wrong. Very wrong. Backup protection. Silence. Dangerous silence. What kind of protection? David asked. Good question. Terrible question. Client failure prevention. David stared. Long enough. Careful enough. What happens if this system disappears? My stomach dropped. Hard, fast, wrong. Because suddenly, for the first time, I realized something terrifying. Not inconvenience, not delays. Millions. Actual millions. And nobody, including my boss, had any idea. Nobody spoke. Not immediately, because numbers change rooms, especially big numbers. Millions? David asked quietly. Not angry. Worse. Focused. I nodded once. Slow, careful. Potential exposure, I said. Corporate words, safe words, dangerous truth. Claire leaned forward. Explain. My pulse climbed. Fast? Wrong. Okay. Client recovery automation, system safeguards, emergency failure detection, operational redundancy. The invisible systems. My systems. If billing fails, I said carefully, backup alerts trigger before clients notice. David stayed completely still. Dangerous. If integrations break, recovery routing activates. Claire said nothing. Also dangerous. If vendor failures happen, we isolate impact before escalation. Silence. Heavy. Real. David flipped another page. What happens now? Good question. Terrible question. Because suddenly, nobody was asking about Greg anymore. They were asking about survival. Jordan? Claire said quietly. My throat tightened. Wrong. Without transition planning, I stopped. No. Too direct. Too dangerous. David looked directly at me. Jordan. Executive voice. Sharp. Finish. Okay. Truth. Dangerous thing. Without transition planning, I said quietly, operations become unstable. Silence. Client risk increases. Silence. Financial exposure increases. Silence. Recovery speed slows. Silence. Failure probability rises. Silence. Nobody moved. Nobody typed. Nobody pretended anymore. David leaned back slowly, thinking, calculating, understanding. Good. Very good. Then, Claire asked the question, the dangerous question. Greg knew? My stomach dropped instantly. No. No, no, no. Because suddenly, this wasn't operational anymore. This was accountability. I don't know, I said. Lie. Small one. Necessary one. Because I knew. Of course I knew. Greg knew enough. Not details, not systems, not architecture, but enough. Enough to understand. Enough to ask questions. Enough to notice. He never noticed. David folded his hands. Quiet, sharp, dangerous. When was the last time you took vacation without logging in? Interesting question. Painful question, I thought. January. No. November. No. Actually, I don't remember. Silence. Real silence. Claire looked down, not writing, thinking. Bad sign. Very bad sign. David stood slowly. Decision movement. Executive movement. Dangerous movement. Jordan. Yes? I need complete transition documentation. My pulse climbed. Fast. Wrong. Timeline? 2 weeks. 2 weeks. 14 days. Interesting. Very interesting. Because suddenly, for the first time in 8 months, leadership wasn't asking me to fix things. Leadership was preparing for what happened if I left. And for the first time, I started wondering, what would happen if I actually did?
2 weeks, 14 days. Funny. People think quitting happens in one moment. It doesn't. It happens slowly, quietly. Tiny disappointments stacking on top of each other until one day, you realize you've already left emotionally. Your body just hasn't caught up. 10:42 a.m. I sat at my desk staring at the transition plan. 14 days. Documentation, training, dependency transfer. Simple. Except, it wasn't simple. Because suddenly, people were acting differently. Very differently. Slack messages, questions, meetings, recognition. Interesting. Very interesting. The same people who ignored invisible work could suddenly see it. Funny how visibility appears when risk appears. 11:17 a.m. Greg walked in. First time I'd seen him all morning. No confidence, no executive smile, no performance. Interesting. Very interesting. Conference room? He asked quietly. Not asked, needed. Conference room C. Glass walls, bad lighting, corporate discomfort. Greg closed the door, turned, looked tired, actually tired. We need to talk. Interesting. Because suddenly, after 8 months, now, we needed to talk. You should have said something. No. No, no, no. My pulse climbed instantly. Wrong. Dangerous. I did. Greg frowned. No. Multiple times. Silence. Sharp silence. Forecast corrections. Silence. Billing failures. Silence. Vendor risks. Silence. Process gaps. Silence. Memory. Dangerous thing. Because suddenly, I remembered every conversation, every warning, every quiet attempt. You said we were too busy. Greg stared. Actually stared. No. You said we'd revisit later. Silence. You said keep things moving. Silence. Corporate silence. Heavy silence. Greg sat slowly, smaller somehow. Interesting. Very interesting. I trusted you. There it was. Not accountability. Dependency. Dangerous dependency. You trusted me to protect you, I said quietly. No. Yes. Silence. Wrong silence. Painful silence. You knew enough to ask questions. Silence. You knew enough to notice. Silence. You didn't. Greg rubbed his face slowly.
exhausted, human. For the first time, human. I didn't realize. I know. Because that was the problem. He didn't realize, didn't ask, didn't look, didn't notice. Because somebody else always carried it. Me. Greg looked up slowly. What happens now? Interesting. Very interesting. Because suddenly, the man who managed me was asking me what happened next. And for the first time, I didn't have an answer. Then my laptop pinged. New email. From Claire Donovan. Subject, Executive Leadership Decision. My stomach dropped instantly. Hard, fast. Wrong. Because somehow, I already knew. Everything was about to change.
My stomach dropped before I even opened it. Funny. How your body learns danger before your mind does. Greg sat across from me. Quiet. Smaller than I'd ever seen him. Interesting. Very interesting. I clicked. From Claire Donovan. Subject, Executive Leadership Decision. Jordan. Effective immediately, operational reporting structure changes will be implemented pending review. Please join Executive Conference Room A, 2 p.m. David Lawson will attend. No details, no explanation. Worse. Corporate mystery. Dangerous thing. 2:01 p.m. Executive floor. Claire, David, HR, legal, finance. Too many people. My pulse climbed instantly. Fast. Wrong. David stood near the window. City skyline behind him. Executive energy. Dangerous energy. Jordan. Hi. Sit. Interesting. No small talk. Never good. Claire slid paperwork across the table. Reorganization proposal. Operational restructuring. Interim leadership assignments. Training timelines. My eyes stopped. Hard. Fast. Wrong. No. No, no, no. Interim Operations Stability Lead, Jordan Reed? Temporary Reporting Authority? Cross-functional oversight? Transition ownership? My name. My actual name. No. David folded his hands. Quiet, sharp, focused. We have risk exposure. I nodded slowly. We also have leadership exposure. Cold moved through my chest instantly. Leadership exposure. Not systems. People. Greg. Claire spoke next. Effective today, Greg will no longer maintain independent operational authority during review. Silence. Real silence. Dangerous silence. My pulse climbed harder. Fast. Wrong. No. No, no, no. David looked directly at me. Jordan. Yes. Can you stabilize operations? Good question. Terrible question. Because suddenly, this wasn't invisible work anymore. This was ownership. Actual ownership. Real visibility. Real accountability. The dangerous thing I'd wanted. The dangerous thing I'd avoided. I think so, I said quietly. David nodded once. Decision nod. Executive nod. Dangerous nod. Good. Claire slid another page toward me. My stomach dropped instantly. Hard. Wrong. Retention proposal. Compensation adjustment. Leadership track review. Leadership. No. No, no, no.
8 months ago, I would have wanted this, needed this, chased this. Now, something felt different. Wrong. Because suddenly, I realized something terrifying. They weren't rewarding me. They were protecting themselves. The company needed stability, needed systems, needed knowledge, needed me. And for the first time, I wasn't sure staying was what I wanted anymore. Then Claire said 6 words. 6 devastating words. We have one more concern. My pulse climbed instantly. Fast. Wrong. What concern? I asked. Claire looked down, then back up. Quiet, professional, dangerous. We reviewed Greg's performance evaluations. Silence. Sharp silence. And Jordan... Pause. Heavy pause. Your name keeps disappearing.
Your name keeps disappearing. Silence. Real silence. The kind that changes rooms. My pulse climbed instantly. Fast. Wrong. Claire slid a folder across the table. Performance reviews, project summaries, quarterly leadership reports, recognition submissions. My work. Greg's name. My systems. Greg's ownership. My improvements. Greg's leadership. No. No, no, no. David opened another page. March. Reporting automation redesign. Led by Greg Mercer. April. Vendor recovery stabilization. Led by Greg Mercer. June. Forecast correction recovery. Led by Greg Mercer. August. Operational efficiency improvements. Led by Greg Mercer. 8 months. 8 months. 8 months. My chest felt strange. Not anger, not shock. Recognition. Because suddenly, I could see it. Not mistakes, not oversight. A pattern. Intentional. Careful. Quiet. Dangerous. Claire folded her arms. We checked submission history. Cold moved through my chest. No. No, no, no. Jordan, Claire said quietly. Your documentation existed. Silence. Your logs existed. Silence. Your project ownership existed. Silence. But executive visibility changed. David leaned forward slightly, focused, sharp, dangerous. Do you know what concerns me most? No. Actually, yes. I don't think Greg forgot, David said quietly. Silence. Sharp. Heavy. Dangerous. I think Greg understood exactly how dependent operations had become. My stomach dropped hard, because suddenly, pieces connected. Meetings, credit, visibility, recognition, the award email, the language, team effort, collaboration, support, careful words, protective words. No. Not protection. Control. Greg didn't want visibility. Greg wanted dependency. My dependency. My invisible work. His visible leadership. Claire opened one final report. Compensation recommendations. Promotion discussions. Internal succession planning. My pulse climbed instantly. Wrong.
Very wrong. No. No, no, no. Operations Leadership Candidate Review. My name. Crossed out. My actual name. Comment. Strong technical contributor. Limited leadership visibility. Silence exploded. No. 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 Leadership visibility. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because suddenly everything made sense. Every missed promotion, every delay, every next cycle, every conversation. Invisible people don't get promoted. Invisible people hold things together. David closed the file slowly. Jordan. Quiet, professional, sharp. We failed you. No. Worse. You succeeded despite us. Silence. Real silence. Claire looked toward me. Greg protected his position. Dangerous sentence. Painful sentence. True sentence. And Jordan... Heavy pause. Very heavy pause. You protected Greg. Silence. Sharp. Final. Because suddenly, for the first time, I realized something worse than being exploited. I'd helped build the system that exploited me. And now, for the first time, I was done helping.
I didn't resign that day. Funny. Because people think big decisions happen fast. They don't. Big decisions grow quietly. In meetings, in disappointments, in moments where you realize you've been surviving something you should have left. 3 days passed. The office felt different. People said my name now. Interesting. Very interesting. Jordan can help. Ask Jordan. Jordan built that. Funny how recognition arrives only after collapse. Greg wasn't gone, not completely. Leadership review, temporary restrictions, executive oversight, corporate words, safe words. Reality. He was being watched, closely. Monday, 9:14 a.m. Slack notification. Greg, can we talk? Interesting. Very interesting. Conference room B. Glass walls, bad coffee, corporate history. Greg looked exhausted, actually exhausted. No polished voice, no executive energy. Human. Dangerous thing. I messed up. Silence. Real silence. Not enough. I should have said something. Not enough. I should have recognized. No. My voice surprised me. Sharper, stronger. No, Greg. Silence. You knew. He looked down immediately. Interesting. Very interesting. Because suddenly, I had my answer. You knew, I said quietly. You knew exactly what was happening. Silence. Wrong silence. Corporate silence. Protective silence. I didn't think. No! My pulse climbed. Fast. Wrong. You thought I wouldn't stop. Silence. Sharp. Dangerous. Because I never stopped before. Greg rubbed his hands slowly. Nervous. Interesting. I was under pressure. No. No, no, no. Pressure doesn't explain patterns. Pressure doesn't erase names. Pressure doesn't rewrite ownership. Pressure reveals character. I earned leadership, Greg said quietly. Interesting. Very interesting. Because suddenly, we found it. The truth. Not laziness, not incompetence. Fear. Fear wearing confidence. Fear wearing management titles. Fear wearing leadership. You thought visibility was limited, I said quietly. Silence. You thought if I stayed invisible, no! Too fast, too defensive. Interesting, very interesting. Jordan, no! For 8 months, I'd carried systems, protected failures, stayed quiet. Not anymore. You didn't build leadership, I said carefully. You built dependency. Silence exploded. Real silence. The dangerous kind. Greg looked smaller somehow. Not because he changed, because truth removes illusion. I never wanted this, he whispered. Maybe. Maybe not. Didn't matter. Because intentions don't erase outcomes. My laptop buzzed. Calendar invite. From David Lawson. Subject, Executive Transition Discussion. Tomorrow, 9 a.m., Executive Floor. Interesting. Very interesting. Because suddenly, for the first time, leadership wasn't asking how to protect Greg. Leadership was asking what came after Greg. And somehow, that felt heavier than everything before. People think winning feels good. Sometimes, it feels exhausting. Tuesday, 8:52 a.m., executive floor, glass walls, quiet carpet, expensive silence. David Lawson stood near the window. Claire sat reviewing paperwork. HR, finance. Too many people. Again. Interesting. Very interesting. Jordan, David said. Morning. Morning. No small talk. Never good. Claire slid a folder toward me. Transition framework. Operational stabilization plan. Leadership continuity proposal. Corporate words. Safe words. Dangerous reality. My pulse climbed instantly. Fast. Wrong. Jordan, David said quietly. We need to discuss long-term structure. Long-term? Interesting. Because suddenly, everyone assumed I was staying. No one asked. Funny. Very funny. Claire opened another report. Operational metrics, recovery timelines, incident reduction, client retention improvements, my systems, my work, my invisible years, visible now. Interesting timing. We reviewed historical performance, Claire said. Operations improved significantly under your support. Support. Interesting word. Still. David leaned forward, focused, sharp. We'd like to offer you Director of Operations. Silence. Real silence. Dangerous silence. No. No, no, no. Director. Greg's title. Greg's office. Greg's problems. Funny. 8 months ago, I would have accepted before they finished talking. Now, something felt wrong. Very wrong. David kept talking. Compensation increase, leadership path, strategic influence, executive mentoring. Words. Good words. Expensive words. Late words. Claire slid final paperwork toward me. Offer package. Official. Prepared. Expected. Interesting. Very interesting. Take time, David said quietly. Interesting. Because suddenly, for the first time, leadership wasn't rushing me. Good. Very good. Because they should have been nervous. I looked down. Director of Operations. Funny. I spent 8 months secretly doing the job. Now they wanted paperwork to match reality. Interesting. Very interesting. Then Claire said something quietly, almost casually. The sentence hit harder than the promotion. We found something else. Cold moved through my chest instantly. No. No, no, no. What? Claire slid one more file across. Expense approvals, budget reallocations, operational contractor expenses. Greg. My stomach dropped instantly. Hard, fast, wrong. Because suddenly, this wasn't about credit anymore. This wasn't promotions. This wasn't visibility. This was money. Real money. And somehow, I already knew. Everything was about to get worse.